Hi friends, I'm Caitlin Workman and welcome to my YouTube channel where I encourage and empower other photographers. So today's topic is a little fun, a little bit controversial. I feel like anytime you're sharing about gear, there's people who are like, no, you should never use that, or yes, you have to use this. Find what you love and find what works best for you. I'm not here to say this is the only thing that you can use. There is definitely equipment that is better than mine, but I found what I love, what works best for me. And today I wanted to talk to you about what I think you need to start photographing weddings today. And I'm going to give you more of some budget options because personally, I don't believe that you should go thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into debt to start your business. There are certain things that I think are non-negotiables when talking about photographing weddings. I'll talk about that. And then there's things that you can like splurge on later, and we can talk about that another time. Number one, non-negotiable is having a camera with a dual card slot. Now, I am not a techie. Some of these things I'm going to have to even look at to see what they're called because I order it and then whatever. But you have to have a camera that has 2 memory cards. Okay, so I shoot with the Canon 5D Mark III. I know that there are upgrades available. I will probably be upgrading someday, but I love this. I love this camera. This is my second camera and I just love it. I'm not ready to switch, but it has 2... like you can put 2 cards in there. That's all that means. And what that means is if something were to happen and your memory card were to corrupt for some reason, which I have only had one that ever had a little bit of an issue, and I noticed it having an issue as soon as it happened, but things happen all the time. Memory cards corrupt all the time. And so with something as important as a wedding, I don't think that you can show up with only 1 card slot and serve them effectively. Like, I just think that's not a risk I'm willing to take. I don't think you should be willing to take that. So I think a non-negotiable is having a camera with 2 cards. These are the cards that I use. They are SanDisk Ultra. I use 64 gigabyte, 120 MB over S. I'll look up what that means. But anyways, those, I'll put a link for everything that I'm sharing about. I really like those memory cards. I've shared a couple, or I've tried a couple of them, and some of them are just a little bit slower. These ones are quick. I've never had any problems with them. And then I always have a backup card in there. These last literally forever. I have never replaced my backup card. That's another thing that might be controversial. Some people buy new cards every year, but they've held strong. So make sure you have 2 cards. I definitely would make sure that you have some sort of wide lens, because what can happen on wedding days is you might be in a getting ready room that's really small, and you would never want to like be in their getting ready room and not be able to document certain moments because you don't have a wide enough lens. A wide enough lens just means like in a tight space, it's gonna like get a wide amount of stuff in your frame, right? So I use a 35. This is actually a Canon 1.2, but it's a cheaper lens, so I'll put the link for that too. It does a great job, even though it is more of a, I mean, it's a cheaper lens. It's not an L series or anything like that, but it does a great job. A lot of people love a 50 millimeter lens. I don't think you would have to have one to shoot your first wedding. I think that if you have a wide lens and some sort of lens that will give you a really blurry background, I think that's fine. I think if you have both of those and then you have something to do details with, I think that's enough. If you want a 50, this 50 is more affordable. It's the 50 Canon 1.4. I'll put that below too. But this is a really affordable lens, and it actually takes beautiful pictures. It does a great job. So if you feel like you want one, some people swear by this. Some people use this all the time. I don't use it very often. My husband, who is my second shooter, he keeps it on most of the time. But I think that you're fine to not have that. So I would definitely have a wide lens, something like a 35. You could have something like 24 to 70 if you want to invest in that. But I think 35 does the trick. Next, you want something that's going to give you beautiful portraits. I love my 85. This I keep on my camera anytime that I can. The only time that I take the 85 off is if I'm doing bridal party. It's a larger bridal party. If I'm doing family pictures and I'm worried that they're moving too quick, or I am inside doing something like a getting ready room, I'll use my 35, but typically I use my 85 a lot. This is the 85 1.4 L series lens. So this is a really nice it's a more expensive lens. It was a splurge. I didn't start out with that. So I do think that you need something that's going to give you really pretty portraits. If you want that blurry background, you need something like this, but you don't have to invest in the L series. There is another 85. I'll put the link for both for you. The other 85 is a lot more affordable. I don't have it with me or I would tell you what it is, but it'll give you that same look. So definitely recommend that. And then I think you need something to give you some kind of macro lens to give you really pretty details. But I don't think that you have to spend a lot in the very beginning, okay? They make adapters that you can get to put on a lens that you already have. So when I first started and I wanted to do some ring shots, I had my 50, it was a more affordable 50, and then I put the adapter on there that basically turns this into a macro lens. And I used that in the beginning when I was first starting out. And they're like super cheap. But if you can splurge on something like 100, it's great. This is the 100, what is it? 2.8. And that's what I use for things like ring shots and those kind of details. That's literally the only thing that I use it for. After the first hour of the wedding day, I typically don't even keep it in my bag. I give it to my husband to carry around because it's kind of heavy. So I don't think that that's something you have to splurge on. Look into those adapters if you're in the beginning and you need something a little more affordable. And what else do you have to have? You have to have some kind of flash, just because you don't want to get yourself in a situation. I don't really like flash. I prefer natural light. And so I would much rather just stick the bride in front of a window than use my flash. But a lot of times you'll be in a getting ready room where you don't necessarily have control over the light and you don't want to miss certain really important moments just because you're not able to light the situation. So these speed lights are I don't know how to pronounce it. Yongo. Someone tell me how to pronounce that if that's wrong. But these are a much more affordable option too. I didn't know how to use flash and I just ordered something. And there's definitely better options, but when you're first starting out, these are very affordable. I actually use 3 now. I use 1 on my camera and I use 2 off camera. But if you're very first starting out, you don't really know exactly what you're doing and you're just trying to like get the pictures lit as best as you can, I would definitely recommend at least having 1 of these to keep on your camera to make sure that you can light every situation. So I do have 3 of these, and then we have 2 light stands and an umbrella. I can do a whole other video on our off-camera flash setup if you want. I'm definitely not an expert. I'm basically like, I want it as simple as possible, and then my husband like handles all the settings and all of those things. But I definitely would recommend having something, and that's a more affordable option. So honestly, I think having just that setup, you would totally be fine, comfortable, confident to photograph a wedding. Something else that I think is like a non-negotiable for me is having a second photographer. And that's kind of controversial too. I know that a lot of people do it by themselves, but I would never want something to happen and me to be by myself. Like, say for example, I break my leg or something. I don't know. That's crazy. That's drastic. But like if I were to get hurt and like suddenly couldn't keep taking pictures, it would be really scary if you didn't have any kind of backup. And also if something happens and one of your lenses stopped working and you started missing focus during the ceremony, or you just never know what can happen. And I think having a second photographer is really, really important just to make sure that you give your clients the best experience possible. So that's a basic, pretty affordable setup to start photographing weddings. If you guys have questions about specific gear, like I said, I'm not a techie. This is just kind of what I started with. A lot of this is still my favorite, even years after I've started. So I hope that this was helpful. Let me know if you have specific questions, and I'll see you guys next week.